What's up, guys? Welcome to Modern Music Expo, the online conference for the 21st century songwriter, artist, and producer. Today, I'm super excited because I have a real treat for you guys. I have a production workshop coming up with a top producer, vocal producer, and songwriter, Justin Gammella. Now, Justin's credits include Phineas, Build a Bitch by Bella Poarch, Ash, Chelsea Cutler, Blake Rose, Salem Elise. Today he's going to be showing us how he produced not one but two songs. Wrong Side of Myself by Ash, which is a song he produced 4 years ago. So he's going to be talking about his older process and how he used to approach production back then. And then he's going to show us Morning by Anthony Russo, which is a song that's coming out now that he produced about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And then he's going to be showing us his process at that point and comparing it to what he does now, which I think the lesson here, you guys, is that to be a successful producer, you have to keep progressing. Even after you're a hit producer, you don't stop, you don't get set in your ways, you really change and grow and discover new things. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into the Zoom call and let's see what Justin has to show us on these two songs. All right, guys, I'm here with Justin Gammella. So excited to jump into this process. Justin's gonna be showing us two different songs today. And I think this is really fun because one song you produced, 4 years ago, right?
4 years ago, give or take.
Yeah, and the other was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. So I thought that would be really interesting for you guys because he will show you kind of his older process and more current process, talk about how he's grown as a producer, because a lot of the times that's the questions that we get is how do I grow as a producer? And I feel like the misconception is that you kind of make it, you get to a certain point and that's where you stay, like once you're a pro, and that's totally not it. You keep advancing and keep growing even after you've had hit songs. So that's kind of what we're here to show you guys today.
Yeah. So first track I thought it'd be fun to go over is this song I did a couple years ago. I wrote it with Ash and Phineas. I'll play like a couple sections of the song. It's a song called Wrong Side of Myself. But here we go.
No, don't put on a front or a show. So the stage has been set, but just don't let it get into your bed. I know your sleepy head is on fire. Don't go.
Cool. I'll play the chorus just so you can hear that too.
But baby, I just keep driving me crazy. Everyone's trying to save me. They're all on my side, but I'm on the wrong side of myself.
And then I'll play like the last like post chorus just so you can hear like how big it eventually does get.
By my side, but I'm on the wrong side of myself.
Very cool. Yeah, I definitely hear like the Phineas, Billy vibes in there. Very dope.
Or this core skeleton of the drum group is this little loop that Finn came up with in Logic, because I work in Pro Tools, Finn works in Logic, and we were both kind of in the room on both of our laptops, but we were mainly working off mine, and he came up with this little drum loop here that goes throughout most of the song. And I are like really into Foley sounds. We didn't really record anything, but I remember he opened up in Battery this thing called like Berlin Headquarters, which is just like, I think they just went to a studio and they just recorded a whole bunch of like random things like toilet seats and light switches and whatever. And how Finn does drums a lot of the time is he actually likes to play it. He won't sit there and program it. He likes to feel how everything is going and he'll play it. And he started playing this on that Berlin drum kit thing.
Now, does he quantize it after the fact, or is it more just like he plays it like just for his own ease and then quantize it, or does he actually keep the timing?
He usually quantizes. I can't say like obviously what he's done recently. But this day, like, it's just like I'm a big guy. Like when you're in the room, like let's just like go and just like get things going. And I'll I think Finn is the same way, but I'll usually because I like to play things out too, especially things like, this where it has a specific groove and feel to it, where I'll just quantize it in the room. And then later on, when no one else is there, I might like kind of sit there and try and get the pocket right, or just move
Mm-hmm.
things over on
Mm-hmm.
the grid to the left or right to see if it like needs to feel like it's slowing down or speeding up. The decisions I'm making in the room with an artist or with other songwriters are very different than the decisions I'm going to eventually make down the road. Like most of this song it was written on this piano that's right behind me. We wrote it on piano. Um, and then we just like kind of started to build up, um, as we were in there. But most of this production I did by myself after both Ash and Finn left. I think like that day we had the piano and the drum loop, and like that was it. And then I added everything else.
That's really cool. Yeah, did you guys kind of mostly focus on writing and top line and the song itself, and then you did like all the yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's how I like to work in general. I'm just under the thought, not that one is right and one is wrong, but I'll at most I'll create like I call it like a vibe where it might have like one, two, three, four elements in it. But I at the end of the day, I just want to get a good song, and whatever production I did during the session that day, I could throw out. I don't care. I'm not precious with it. I just want to like do what's best for the song. It's also because like, yeah, I'm a producer, but I consider myself a songwriter first. So like that's kind of just my overall philosophy where song is king, everything else takes a back seat.
That makes so much sense. I feel the same way, but I think yeah, for a lot of younger producers, like there might be a little bit of ego attached to like certain production elements, and I always say like yeah, just be like a little bit looser with it because like it needs to serve the song. If it works, great, but if it doesn't, like maybe take it out.
I think something that I used to do too that I see a lot of younger producers do is that, they're in a session and uh, I don't know if it's ego, but it's you want to make sure that the people in the room respect you, and maybe you don't have the confidence to like show them a riff on guitar only. And sometimes producers will just like have these like fully done tracks with like so many things going on that a top liner comes in and they're like, I can't write over this. I don't know. There's no room for my vocal because you included 20 melodies in the verse. So, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I think that's a piece of advice I give to a lot of like younger producers, especially where it's like, hey, like don't be afraid to go in with like a pretty bare track, or like don't be afraid to go in with nothing. You know, I all of my best songs have come when I didn't have anything that day and the artist comes in with a concept, and I like to build around the concept. I like the sounds and the soundscape to like feel hit on the emotion that the concept is about, as opposed to like the other way around. But that's, there's no wrong way. That's just how I like to do it personally.
Makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Um, so yeah, a couple of the fun things that I think we did in here. I guess you know what, we're in drumland. Let's stay in drumland. Um, as you guys can probably see, as the song goes on, classic producer thing to do, especially in pop, is that we're adding elements as it keeps going, and definitely did that here. So a couple of the things that we added, like I said, like a lot of that main kind of loop Finn came up with, and then we wanted to make the post, chorus feel a little bit bigger. So we added these elements. There's a gunshot, there's a gun
Oh,
loading,
yay.
there's Ash over here, she's breathing in. Um so
Fun.
yeah, so we can kind of hear these elements, and then it stops on that like four and beat to kind of create some like separation between, that's a big thing too. If you create like the tiniest little bit of silences before a big chorus or a big post chorus, it does a lot. It can make it feel bigger when it's really not. Like even like a four and or a four and where the beat is just like nothing. And maybe listeners don't realize it, but if you do a before and after of like taking things out, it's kind of crazy how big of a difference it makes.
Huge.
Yeah. So that's why I stopped it like earlier as opposed to like on, the one of the next beat. Same thing over here. This is the Canon,
Love that.
whatever. And then I added, oh yeah, I added some stomps and claps that I definitely didn't record. I probably just had these samples that I layered, knowing me. But yeah, I think with a lot of these sounds, what I was trying to do was all of the drums that Finn put in, I guess besides like the Berlin headquarter thing, they were very like sampley, very one-dimensional drums. And to kind of make it feel a little bit more alive, I wanted to add a lot of like organic sounds to like give it some depth. Kind of play the last like bar of the drum loop without those additions, and you'll hear when everything else comes in, it just suddenly feels bigger, even without any other instruments. This isn't like a pop production where I'm looking for like huge things to like really feel big. I just subtle is key here, especially with like the song. Cool. So I'll play the beat in the last bar of the chorus going to that post chorus. You can hear it's like it's a subtle lift. So yeah, really subtle, but it just makes it feel like it has a little bit. It's more three-dimensional to my ears, at least, with all that.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, and you'll even see like this is one of the things that you're gonna see like in my process. Even my drum bus here, it only has one plugin right now. It just has the SSL compressor. I guess I was using the Waves one. So yeah, this was like this I bet you too, just like knowing myself, like this is probably one of the first songs where I was like using drum bus stuff. And you'll see on the next song that like my drum bus is now it's probably too much, but it's quite insane where I'm doing a lot more. And I don't do it as much now. Like you'll see as producers, like you kind of start doing things and you stop doing it, then you start doing it again. I don't know, I think it like freshens up the creative process. But yeah, that's one of the big things that like I really wasn't doing. And cool. So the other fun thing about this song is uh most of the instruments here are just mostly organic instruments, a lot of guitars, real bass. Yeah, I played a mandolin in here, piano, um, and oh yeah, a lot of the keyscape stuff. They have like this organ thing that's really cool. Where is it? I'll play
I
it.
love Keyscape.
Oh, if you don't have keyscape, you all need to get it because it it's the only piano I use. What I do a lot of the time, um, which I didn't do in this song, but it's just something good to know, is that uh, piano I'll usually try and play uh, and not quantize because I want it to sound real. That's just a good tip in general. Where even if you play it and you quantize it like at like 70%, it'll still make it feel a little bit more human. Because like the specialness of piano is that you're not always hitting all the notes at the same time, and it actually helps like even out your dynamics in the song where you actually end up getting more headroom. That's a whole nother conversation. But um, I'll take the MIDI of that piano and I'll just duplicate it down to another track and I'll layer in like a Rhodes or an organ or something else where I can now have it's playing the same amount of time and you're not going to get any like flamming, but you can mix in a really nice warm layer underneath the piano where sometimes pianos are too thin, but you put a Rhodes under it or you put an organ that's playing the same exact part and you can and make it sound like one instrument. You don't realize it's two. But it's a trick that I picked up. I forget from whom,
That's
but
amazing. Great trick.
yeah, it's great. It's and it's quite easy because I'm just dragging down a MIDI file. Um,
That's my favorite. Ones that are very easy. You don't have to play anything else.
Not a lot of work. Yeah, so one of my favorite things I think we did in this song vocally is that I had a very, very subtle, and this isn't really a pop thing to do, but you can definitely use it in pop. It's more of like a left leaning thing to do. But I added in a really, really subtle uh, double of Ash's vocal, and not like it's, usually pop, you do like center, left, right, but this was just a center double that's like really kind of tucked in there. So I don't know if it's going to be able to hear it. It really is super subtle. But this is just the vocal by itself in the verse.
Don't go selling yourself
And then
so
bring in
short.
the other one.
No ghost can bury your hatchet. So upset, just get out of your bed, convince your sleep.
Yeah, you definitely hear
I
it.
think that's really cool. I love that. I don't think I've ever done like a single double underneath a main one.
It's definitely like a more like I said, indie thing to do. But I think what it enables you to do is that when you want that double vocal sound, but you don't want to like give up too much stereo information yet, you want to leave that for a chorus. I can just have a single double in there, and uh, you know, we wanted it to be kind of messy. Like usually I don't do doubles this messy, but Ash really wanted it to sound more raw and emotional and kind of, whatever. And there's actually, as I'm looking at this session, we didn't double the vocal in the chorus until chorus two. Yeah, so that's something I do a lot.
Baby, I just keep driving me
Yeah, super small.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's a great trick.
Chorus two, we bring in Finn's vocal, and he did like a nice three-part harmony there. Neither Ash nor Finn really need vocal tuning or editing that much. I just like to edit background vocals to make them a little bit tighter, just so like they don't sound messy. And Ash just did not let me do it. She's like, "Don't touch them; they're perfect. I want them messy." And I think she was right. Again, it just kind of makes it feel a little bit more emotional and raw.
Oh, baby, I just keep driving me crazy. Everyone's trying to say.
I keep listening to that. I love those
It's
harmonies.
beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah.
You'll see even here, these are ambient verb, room verb. These are all my vocal sends, and this BC patchwork. Those are all like different Valhalla things. I put a reverb. I'm not sorry, an EQ before my reverbs always. It's called like the Abbey Road trick, where you take out some lows and take out some highs.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that had a name. I do this all the time, and it's like so fun to find out. Oh, this is like a normal thing that has a name and terminology.
Up with it in like the Abbey Road studios, where like, oh, like the reverbs don't really need like too much high or low end information, so we'll just take it out. Yeah, like these, like now I'm going way more. It depends on the song. Like I don't think reverbs need too much like high end information or low
Mm-mm.
end information. You just kind of want to feel it.
Yeah, I think it's like really needs to hit in like lower mids, upper mids. Like really, that's where like the sauce is.
See in like the next song too that like I kind of like I do a lot of vocal production just like when I'm not even producing a song. Like vocal production is something I do a lot of, and on my sends, I kind of go in on them where you'll see a lot. Not It's not just a EQ and a reverb or an EQ and a delay. It's like an EQ, maybe some saturation, maybe some like I kind of go in and try to make them all feel like really special and make them have a purpose and saturation on reverbs is something that not a lot of people do, but it's a really great way to thicken up a reverb, especially again, like low mids, high mids, to make it feel a little bit more present without actually bringing up the volume of the reverb or like the send of the vocal to the reverb.
Amazing, amazing tip.
So, this next song that I'm going to talk about is a song that I wrote with Anthony Russo, um, David Arkwright, who goes by Likeable, and DJ Kira Kitas, who also goes by Daylight. And I produced it with the two latter when there was a time period when I was like kind of doing a production trio thing with those guys, but I'm not doing that anymore. But um, so this is the song. You'll see as I'm just kind of scrolling through how many more plugins I'm starting to use now on my drum bus, on my mix bus, on my bass
It's a
bus.
lot.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, like even now I've kind of like backed away from doing some people call it like food group processing, where now I'm doing a lot more uh individual kind of processing as opposed to like this big picture kind of processing. Um, we were at the time like I was like really into a mixer who I'm not sure if you're familiar with, Michael Brower, and he has this thing called like Browerizing, which is like not going to go into it, but like he kind of does these like big food group processing when he mixes, and it does a thing. It kind of sometimes, just like glues everything together in a really nice way. Uh, I don't always think it's necessary, but for this, we just like kind of that's how we produce the song around these like big kind of food group buses. All right, cool. So let's go through and I'll play the verse and I'll play the chorus and the last chorus. So again, you can kind of hear and see. I'll kind of minimize everything. This is what's nice about Pro Tools. They finally got folders. I know everyone else had folders before.
I heard, yeah, it must be so nice.
So you can see like even in just like looking at the WAV files, how the production kind of slowly builds up in the end. But here we go.
Oh no, here we go again. I say what I think, and it's not what you think. Then you tell me you're over it.
Cool, that's the verse. I'll play the first chorus.
So let's see how we feel in the morning, the morning, the morning, the morning. We can just turn it off and on when I'm broken up.
Cool, then the last chorus.
Thinking. So let's see how we feel in the morning, the morning, the morning, the morning. We can just turn it off and on when I'm broken, I'm broken, I'm broken.
This is hot. Gives me J Beebs vibes.
I love this. Was like one of the productions that we definitely spent a ton of time on. Like we really went in and like paid attention to a lot of the small things. And I think it's just because we really love the song. But like even like what we were talking earlier, like when we wrote the song, it was literally the only thing. Like he came in and he was like, yeah, I had a fight with my girlfriend yesterday and I kind of want to talk about that. And then
I love that. I love when artists do that. Like, don't you hate when an artist comes in and they're like, I don't know. What do you want to talk about? And I'm like, you're the artist.
I need to work with an artist with a perspective and that they have something to say. And then like that gets me going. Like I'm not that person. I'm married. I'm boring. I don't have any to talk about. So I need to leech off artists and their interesting lives to write. But that's, like we came up with the morning thing, just like kind of talking about it. And yeah, I think it started with this. I started playing this little thing. Yeah, that was just the riff. And it was from, I don't know if you guys know about the Rolling Cloud thing, but the Rolling Cloud software instruments are like dope. It's kind of expensive. They have like a monthly thing. It's like $30 a month, which is like kind of pricey. But all of their software instruments VSTs are kind of incredible. They have a lot of the original sample libraries from like the keyboards they were making in the 80s, 90s. It's like the actual sounds because Roland owns them. And that was one of like from like their random keyboards that they made in the 90s. It was like this kind of like really corny sound that what did I do to it? I don't remember. So much of me producing is just like, hey, I have this sound. And I just like kind of randomly put different plugins on it. And I'll just like kind of turn knobs and just see what catches my ear. That's 90% of my production when I'm in like the creative phase is I'm just like kind of like, what'll this do? And I try to trust my gut to be like, that's cool, or like, no, that's not cool. So that's how that sound came up, where it was just like a really corny sound that I turned into what I think something, pretty cool and unique sounding.
It's super sick.
And then I think the other thing was another, Jap chorus. Oh, it was like a Japanese little synth that we had, I think, that DJ had, that just a little. And those, oops, come on. And those elements are what we wrote 95% of the song around. Just those two things, no drums, maybe a snap to like give us the feel. But that's what we wrote the song around. And again, like that's what I think it's like the number one thing I try and tell like younger producers is like, don't worry about the production in the room. Like you don't have to give the artist a bounce at the end of the day. You can politely tell them like, hey, I want to work on this a little more and try and get it to them in like a timely manner. But demo-itis is a real thing. And
It is, it is. I was literally gonna be like, well, what are you yeah, like with demo-itis, because if you give them a demo, they fall in love with it and then you can't change anything.
Right. So that's why I, over the years, like it helps that like I have more confidence now as a producer to like tell people like, nah, you gotta wait. That's a luxury, I realize, but it's paid off in the long run where I can give people a little bit more of my vision uh than just like, hey, here's this like thing that like I hate, but like you want to bounce today, so I'm gonna give it to you. Only time I'll do that is if we wrote a song on like a piano and I'm happy to give someone like a piano vocal like that. I'm kind of cool with, but otherwise, like I'm not. I don't love giving out songs with like underdeveloped productions. I don't think it really helps anyone.
It is really interesting. I think, yeah, we actually drastically differ on this. So I'm finish it the day of person. I will only touch it again as if I hear they're cutting it. Like I literally hate nothing more than to work on a song that I don't like more than the session day. Like if I don't know if it's getting cut, but I do like totally see the whole thing of like, well, if it's underdeveloped. So what I do is like I make sure that it's there's enough writers to do the writing so that I can fully like be in headphones and be in production mode and track mode. Um, and then I also think it differs too because you're working with artists and a lot of what I'm doing currently right now is writing pitch songs for K-pop.
Right.
So in there it's a little bit more like they either love the hooks and like the title and like the main idea of the track or they don't. So it kind of doesn't matter as much if it's like almost sounds like a record even though I think it helps and I try to make stuff sound really good. I totally get that for an artist you want to almost like create this presentation of like look what this is like it's almost done, don't you want it?
I'm kind of in the same boat as you with like when I'm doing pitch songs because it's hard to put in as much time for a song that you don't know if it's ever going to come out. Which you can say that's the same thing when you're working with an artist, but at least when you're like in the room with an artist, there's like a little bit, not a little bit, I think a much higher chance of the song being released than
Yeah.
just a pitch. And like to give you credit, like you're a much faster producer than I am. I can't like I don't I also like to be like really, really involved with the top line. So I don't give myself that chance to like sit and work on the production. Because I'm just so
I think the whole fastness thing too, I think it's overrated. Like, and I am really, really fast, but I also like tell people all the time, like, just because I'm fast, like, does not mean like you have to be fast. Like, for people that are watching, like, it honestly kind of doesn't matter. It's just like you and your process. It makes me feel more excited when I'm just like going really fast. It makes me more pumped. But if going slower and like really taking your time makes you feel pumped, like, that's what you should do.
yeah, exactly. So, everyone works differently. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Cool. So yeah, I thought it might be fun too to like because we talked about the drums earlier. Again, I have two different drum buses on this song. This is how crazy I was kind of going. Where I think this drum bus was a little bit more aggressive, and I think there were some like claps and hats that we had in the song that I didn't or that we didn't want to be as compressed and as affected, even though, what there's a tape emulator or compressor, another EQ on the alt drum bus, and then in the main drum bus, there's let's see, one, two, there's two compressors, a multi-band compressor, a tape machine, an EQ, another harmonic, Saturn. So
Love.
there's like going on this drum bus, and this is a dope compressor. This is the compressor I'm using on drums like 90% of the time. It's by Kush Audio. It's called Novatron. And if you look right here on the input, we're pushing it 10 decibels. And I've turned down the volume all on here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, God, I am not an engineer, but essentially this kind of acts more like an analog compressor where the more you're kind of pushing it, the more harmonic information it's going to create. So I want to get, quote unquote, the most out of this compressor. And I want to like have it, give it those harmonic things in there. I don't know, my brain's not working, but that's what this is doing. And then same thing, like that's what this Studer is doing. It's a tape emulator, and we're just using it to kind of like shape it and give it more saturation. This 1073 thing, what are we doing here? We're using a high pass filter down here. And it has a very specific kind of like, I guess, cue or whatever you want to call it, where it's not taking out too much of the subs, but it just like kind of like tightens things up. Distressor, I think we were going pretty hard on this, if I remember correctly. Yeah, you're going to see, I'll play the drums. You'll see how hard this is hitting it. And it's at 100% mix. Oh, no, it's not. Okay. We did this one a year and a half ago. This Saturn is just on this warm tape thing right here. Just a little bit, 20%. Q, doing that. Something I was doing a lot of the time too, where because we were hyping everything up, we ended up really hyping out like these like highs over here. So we took a little bit of a dip at 6K just to control the claps and the snare. So it's only really hitting it on the claps and snares. Okay, this is a good little trick too. So what Pro MB is doing, you see the side chain here, it's getting information from the vocal. It's not right now because the vocal's not playing. And it's just taking just a little, 1 to 3 decibels out of the drums in this, 3 to 4K range to kind of make the vocal, go through a little bit more. Yeah, so just like little things just to like kind of create space. And then this guy giving it a little bit more lows, it looks like. We were going really, really hard on the drum bus on this song. It was doing a lot. So you'll see here, this vocals. I'll play the last chorus here.
So let's see how we feel in the morning, the morning, the morning, the morning. We can just turn it off and on.
There's a lot going on.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a big, I try not to follow Max Martin too much anymore. But I think one of his like philosophies is like last chorus should feel like a party. How in that last chorus, especially vocally, can we make it feel way bigger? But at the end, we added these like little like background vocals that kind of feel fun.
Ooh, let's see how it feels. Ooh, let's see.
It's pretty much a B, right? Like you got your main chorus A and there's your B coming in. Party is here.
It's just like a thing that's just kind of complementing the main vocal. And then of course we have our ad libs. We had the ad lib filter, what were we doing? Kind of super distorted and filtery.
Yeah, you do it. What are you using for that?
We printed it down a couple times. So I don't remember. We were really into Futzbox. Using like a lot of hip hop people use it. But it kind of like emulates different speaker and microphone sources.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's like, like old shitty phone. Like, it's just like different things. And they have like different, radios and telephones.
Oh, this is sick. I want to get this because I just use isotope vinyl and everything and I'm bored. Even though I love it, I'm like bored. I need something else.
Great. Like this is like, it emulates all these different things. And it's just like, you can kind of like click through and like really get it. Like, again, like I'm the kind of person where I just turn knobs and click through things and see what kind of catches my ear. I'm assuming that's what we did for that, where I just kind of like went through things and just like was like, ooh, that sounds cool.
It sounds awesome. Yeah.
They're just like kind of creating a little bit of like depth now. Yeah. And then another fun thing here. So even on the vocals, right? I have the main vocal bus. I think this was before the studio was built. And we actually just recorded this from a Neumann like M150, I think, right into the Apollo. These are the plugins that we were using on it. It's this API Vision kind of acting as like the preamp, distressor, which let's see how much is compressing it.
Feeling the morning, the morning, the morning, the morning.
It's hitting it pretty hard, but I have the mix at like what?
75.
LA2A.
Feeling the morning, the morning, the morning, the morning.
I love LA2As because you can hit them super hard and it doesn't sound like it's compressing. It just feels bigger and fatter. I have a real one now made by Audioscape that I love. It's $1,000 and it's totally worth it. If you're looking for a clone that's actually good. Went in on the EQ.
Feeling the morning, the morning, the morning, the morning.
Same with the massive passive here. Pultec. Just giving it some more lows. I do this on a lot of vocals, not as much anymore because I have a lot more I have a better analog chain and I think we're distorting it pretty good too. Yeah, this is where a lot of the vocal sound is from, where if you can hear it.
Feeling the morning, the morning, the morning, the morning.
I wanted to make this vocal sound really aggressive with distortion, and this is how we did it with Radiator and Decapitator. And how I like to use distortion, especially with Decapitator, is you'll see that like I'm pushing it.
Yeah, lot. I was like 8. Are you kidding me?
and Punish is on.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy.
I like to do distortion, like maybe not different, but I like to push it and then bring the mix down. So
Mhm.
I can like I want I could hear the harmonics that I want and just like bring them up to a point where let's just,
Feel in the morning, the morning, the morning, the morning.
I truly am just like turning knobs and just seeing what happens. And I'm just like, cool, sounds good to me. Not being afraid to do that is like I think really, really important to just, that's I think that's how you find your sound too, is that you just kind of like touch things. And if you think something sounds cool, like trust that feeling. That's how you can, sound different than other producers. And you're not it's how you can also not follow trends. You can kind of create your own if you kind of do that a little bit more often.
I think that's fantastic advice because so many people kind of feel very pressured to follow whatever's going on. And the thing is, like, if you're following now, it's probably going to be out already by the time your song gets to where it needs to go. Like, you need to do your own thing. And especially if you don't like the trend, too. That's the worst, is when you don't like it and you feel like you have to do it. Like, what is this? It's music. You're supposed to do, like, follow your joy and what makes you excited about music. Not every piece of music is everybody's piece of music.
No, and I've been producing and writing now full time for like 6, 7 years, give or take. And I feel like I've actually been successful at it for like 3, 4, significantly more in the last year. And, what I found is that when I like sat down and really thought about, okay, what songs were really successful? Why were they so successful? And every single time it's when I was in a session and just in my head, I was just like, F it. I'm just going to do what I want. I'm not trying to like, so many songwriters are like, "Oh, Rihanna's looking for songs, and like you should write for Rihanna." And personally, I stopped doing that, and I've just approached songs now where I'm just gonna do what I think is cool, even for pitch. Like I don't care who's looking for a song. I'm just gonna write cool songs, and hopefully someone will like them. And I've had so much more success going that route than just like chasing trends. Because exactly like what you said, it's if you're chasing a trend, like by the time that song is ever going to be released, the trend is probably over. you know, you need to be able to try not predict, but like predict or create or like see where music might be heading and take those risks and go in that direction as opposed to doing the safe thing and you know not doing that essentially.
I think that's fantastic advice, and you will be happier doing that anyway, because you're doing what you love.
Exactly. And then I guess, let's like look at these vocals too. I'll just play this really quick. So again, this is what I had a pretty heavy vocal bus. So all the vocals are going through here.
Feel in the morning, the morning, the morning, the morning. We can just turn it off and on. We're not broken, not broken.
So all these guys are doing it's adding this is a harmonic thing, this is a stereo imager to kind of make it feel a little bit bigger, a de-esser, another LA2A just to kind of glue it together. Oxford limiter, great plugin. This goes on almost every main vocal I do, either somewhere in the chain. Um, don't ask me what it does. I have no idea. It does a thing and it makes things sound better.
I love that.
It out on vocals, and then this is just like an EQ just to like lift it. But yeah, I mean, like 2 years later, and my sessions are so much bigger, and they're taking on. I'm making so many, I'm mixing better, and I don't know, I'm approaching things differently. And even now, if I were to open a session I did 2 days ago, it's going to look way different than this. Producers like we're all constantly evolving and like learning new things from something we saw on Instagram or YouTube or from a friend that told us about a new technique or a new plugin. My whole thing is constantly changing and evolving.
And that's what's so fun about it. You are never stagnant.
No, you need to change, and if you don't change, then you're going to get left behind in the dust. Like it's just I see producers who get stuck in their ways and like this is how I do things, and then they never write another song or another hit because they're just set in their ways as opposed to being open to change and try new things and push yourself out of your comfort zone um, a little bit so you can learn how to learn how to go with the times, I guess.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Well, Justin, this has been really freaking amazing. I feel like you've shown us so many incredible tips and tricks and techniques that are very like chewy. People can really like go back and rewatch and like write down the plugins that you use, go get them for themselves. But then also the big picture stuff has been amazing and so helpful. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun. I could talk about this stuff for another 2, 3 hours, but
Me
you,
too. Me too. We could just keep going. But yeah, seriously, thank you so much for, taking the time to help younger producers and paying it forward. And yeah, thanks for being a part of the Modern Music Expo.
thank you, thank you.